Hello and welcome everyone to Increase Your Efficiencies with CrossLink Innovative Solutions. We are going to be looking at some of the inspiration that we find behind our innovative solutions, how we get to some of these ideas that we have, as well as just covering all of them throughout the tax prep process. So what inspires CrossLink? Well, to be honest, it's you guys making life easier for you, making things faster and more efficient for you goes a lot into motivating us in being the most innovative company out in the tax industry. So we think of things like, what if we can cut 5 to 10 minutes out of your processes, whether they be filling out the tax return or even how much time your taxpayers are spending in your office. So if we could cut 5 to 10 minutes out of your time that you spend in the tax return or out of their time that they spend in your office, what does that mean in the overall scheme of things? Does that mean more returns completed? What if we could help free up additional resources without our EROs having to hire additional people? What if we could free up their time a bit, especially those rejections, if we could collapse some of that time we spend connecting with people who have rejected returns and getting some of those documents back? What does that mean at the end of the day? What does it mean if we can drive down operational costs for all of our ERO partners? If you could free up additional space within the office, maybe you could get a smaller office, or maybe you could hire additional preparers to fill that now empty space. All of these things are what motivates us in creating the innovations and having the ideas to bring the software into basically the 21st century. So how do we do this? What are some of these ideas that we've implemented that move us in this direction? Well, we have, if it's storing documents digitally rather than having paper documents, we can have all that stuff scanned into the tax return as well as signed. Even if they're not in the office, we can have remote signatures and emails sent to them. We also have, for those of us that want a more online experience when it comes to running our offices, we now have a hosted CrossLink 1040 where you don't have to worry about installing so much, as well as an interview method for those that are new to the program or new to the tax industry, if you've hired somebody straight out of a tax school, as well as people who want to use their smartphones and their new technology to communicate with their tax preparers and get their tax returns completed. These are where we're going to focus our presentation on today. All of these things kind of come together and help us make things run a lot more smoothly during the tax season, so we don't have to spend so much time in the office or worry that we're going to have so many upset customers or any of that kind of stuff. We really want to shape their experience as much as possible. So one of the things that we encircle is this idea of a paperless office. A paperless office is something where if you can move away from printing everything and storing all that printed everything and move into more of a digital world, this helps us save a lot of money on the back end. If you start to really dig into where costs are going in your business, you might discover that printing is about 1/3 of it, we found. So when you're really thinking about a lot of these innovations that we have here, we really embrace this idea of a paperless office and being able to save time and money that go into printing those tax returns. It can get really expensive, and to have all of these, the signature done in one whack and all of it saved within the tax return, and it just gives a lot of great peace of mind here. So let's start talking about each of these innovations individually. The first one is this document archive. Inside each tax return, we have a link to a digital filing cabinet that basically does a really good job of replacing that filing cabinet you put all your printed material in. It's easy to back up. You don't have to worry about encryption or any of that. It's all inside the tax return, and you don't have to go looking for somewhere else. You don't have to dedicate somebody to go looking through things if the IRS or the bank comes knocking. Nobody has to go to offsite storage and remember where the keys are or any of that. All of the files are saved within the tax return. Also, there is a way to import documents and take your own pictures and images and have those appear within the tax return itself. Importing and attaching PDFs and all those things go along with going paperless. So we want to make sure that you have access to that. You can import any electronic file into the document archive up to 1 megabyte. Some of these things are transmitted around in some cases, so we're not transmitting for 5 minutes at a time. You can put any kind of documents in here, like I said, PDFs, Word documents, you name it. Also, it is integrated with the Motorola handheld scanner. This can read barcodes on a W-2, so you can auto-populate a W-2 if you happen to have a barcode on a W-2. It also will take pictures, and you can automatically have those saved within the document archive itself. So let's take a look at that here. I'm going to open up our new one. This is the new program that came out today. If you guys haven't installed this yet, go out and download it. It is available. So if we open up a tax return, like I said, every single tax return in the attached forms list over on the left has the document archive attached to it. Inside here, we can scan a document with our Motorola scanner. We can import a document if we already have a flatbed scanner of our own. Attached documents is if you're sending things like divorce decrees or death certificates along with the tax return to the IRS. And you can delete, this is actually new for this year. You can delete these if you happen to take a bad fuzzy picture. You can get rid of them and start over. So if we take my scanner here, and I'll click Scan Document, and I'm going to take a picture of the Social Security card. So we can choose some categories here. I'm going to do identification, pass this in, and we can click the Snap button. And it'll take a picture, a little grayscale image, and when we save this, it gets saved right there with a timestamp and a description so you can tell from the outside what it is. If we want to take a look at these, here's the driver's license that we took earlier. All of that is stored within the tax return itself, right here on the left. So as far as this paperless office idea goes, I believe that the document archive is the best feature that we have available, and all of it kind of works. The paperless office and a lot of the other things that we're going to be talking about today revolve around this document archive. We also have signature pads integrated into the software. There's Topaz and Scriptel, and you can find all of these available on our website. If we look on CrossLinkTax.com, under Features, we can see the electronic signature pads here. So all this is available, just like I had displayed earlier. As well as, you know, since we're here, the barcode and the scanner, all of that is available on here as well. So if we want to do scan and store, it'll tell us even what scanner to get if we're going out and buying that scanner. As far as the signature pads, all the models are integrated with CrossLink are the Topaz and the Script Hills. They're all available on the website, just like I showed. And we capture the signature with one signature. The ERO and the tax preparer are imported if that's the way you want it. Save time, have that stuff set up at the beginning of the year, and when the taxpayer signs the tax return, it'll all appear in there. So basically, having all of it can go into the document archive. It gets a timestamp just like the images do, so it meets the government requirements as far as when the taxpayer signed and all those kinds of things. We can't print in this year's yet, so I'm going to open up last year's program. I think Mr. Marvin Martin will do our successful here. So if we're setting things up at the beginning of the year, you notice we have this little database that you can have your preparer sign at the beginning. When you're setting everything up, we can go through here with your signature pad and sign away, as well as your banking. So your 8879s signatures can be saved, and all of that is imported when the taxpayer signs. So when we're ready, we'll click print, and we can click sign doc here. We'll give the taxpayer's signature. I give it my scribble there. If you don't like it, you can clear and start over. Otherwise, click accept, and it'll display in a PDF. And anywhere there's supposed to be a signature, there'll be a signature. So here's our preparer. Here's my scribble. My ERO should be, oh, there it is, right here. So all of that, everywhere they're supposed to be, state, federal documents are all handled just with one signature. The banking documents, because of our relationships with the banks, are printed separately. So if you see under the print menu, we have print bank documents, and those will go through all the rules and regulations and what the taxpayer needs to be aware of when they're getting involved with a financial product. There's also the ability to have the signatures on screen. I do believe it's in, oh, here it is, in the printer settings. So we can, if we want to use our Topaz or Scriptel, but also if you have like a media device that has touch screen, you can use your on screen, and then you can hand them and they can sign with their finger on your touchscreen device. And that's the on screen here. I do think that's pretty handy if you're doing things maybe by an iPad or something. That's pretty nice. Now, remote signature is something that is fairly new for us as well. Now, if you notice here, now that's something I need to show you just briefly. When you print, there's a remote sign button here, right under the sign doc that I used just a second ago, but we have remote sign. So that's really important when you begin to use a remote signature. So when your taxpayer isn't necessarily in the office and you still want to take care of getting that return signed and submitted and completed and all that, we can now, through the CrossLink program, send them what's called a remote signature capture. So we can do this through your smartphone or email. Really all that's necessary for them is that they have a touchscreen device on their side. Everything is authenticated, it's in a PDF format, and then all of this at the end of the process is stored within that document archive I was showing you earlier. So as we go through this, here's that remote sign button, right? And we'll have the opportunity, if it's like a married filing joint and one of them is in the office but the other is at work or at school or something, we can have them use the signature capture at the office, or they can use their phone. And when this goes off, you notice at the bottom here, we have a signed date for the pay preparer and the ERO, and it's waiting for the taxpayer above. And on the work in progress summary page, we have where we can manage our pending signatures. So if somebody isn't getting to them right away, they don't fall through the cracks. They're right there on that main page. When you send them a remote signature, they get a text message with a link in it. When they tap on the link, it will take them to our secure portal, and they'll have to identify themselves. This is the information that you typed in the tax return. So everything will have to match the tax return for them to be able to get in. Once they're in, they can click on this link at the top where it says Document, and they'll display the full tax return in a PDF. Once they go through the return and they're okay with it, they'll tap on that checkbox, I've read the document, and they'll sign with their finger, and they'll tap that Submit button, and away it goes back to you. You get a signature date, and all of that is sent to the document archive. And not only that, you have an initial signature, and you have the one that they sent you back. We also have email capabilities. So straight from the program again, you can email. You can see the little email button down here. And also when we deal with a signed document, we can email them right away and have them sign on their touch screen if they have a touchscreen device or a touchscreen computer. All of that's available just as you're printing. And so really what we're trying to do is enter into a conversation with the taxpayer. Do you really want this printed in a hard copy, or can we email it to you? Can we sign with your cell phone and have a PDF copy on your media device, or those kinds of things? If it means that we need to encrypt things as we send them along, we can do that as well. But we're really trying to embrace this idea of removing a lot of that cost and also making it more convenient for the taxpayer themselves. A lot of people these days use their phone for everything, and being able to have that remote signature and those email capabilities sent straight to my phone is pretty handy. On to our CrossLink 1040 hosted. Now, this is new, but it's not new at the same time. It's CrossLink. It's CrossLink like you've been using maybe in the past. Maybe you've seen CrossLink at a sales seminar or on a demonstration or at the trade show. This is no different other than you access it online. Rather than installing the program on your computer, you can access a hosted version through the internet. And if you want, you can have preparers in Denver, Colorado, and you can have preparers in San Antonio, Texas, access the same CrossLink. They just do it over the internet, basically. So if you're interested in going into more of an online experience, please talk to your sales rep. This might not be something a lot of people have heard of, but don't be afraid of it. It is CrossLink. We are just hosting it on our servers, so you don't have to install anything. You don't have to worry about anybody coming in and stealing your information off the computer or hacking your servers and stealing the taxpayer data. It's all on our side. Next, we have the interview method. Now, this is brand new for this year, and this allows us to have more of a guided experience when we're completing a tax return. So, and this is something I can show you in this year's program. Now, we can start a tax return in this interview mode. So if I open one of my login accounts, edit, down here at the bottom, there's a checkbox, Start Return with Return Interview. Return Interview is our new interview mode. So if you want, every time you start a tax return or every time a particular person starts a tax return, you can have them start in interview mode and they'll get this more guided experience. So over here in our attached forms list, just like the document archive and a remote signature, there it is, we have return interview. And this if we look here just real quick, this is the client data that we might be used to, and we have name, occupation, we have filing status, and if we don't know what exactly to put in these, we have the line-by-line help at the bottom, right? So we can say one is single, but now we have this thing called return interview, which instead does a much better job of walking us through, especially if we're brand new to the tax industry, of dealing with these things. So we'll say we're single, and then we can click next here. We have little places, help me decide, will bring us to the IRS website. We can click next, and if you notice, now we're on personal information. So these first three here, filing status, personal information, dependent, these all deal with the client data worksheet. So we have name, occupation, driver's license, but now instead of hitting the letter D for a driver's license or S for state issued, we just mark the box next to driver's license, which tends to make a lot more sense to somebody who's brand new, and especially to the software or to the tax industry. The next few here have to deal with income all the way through the tax return till we get to the filing options. And it ends, the whole thing ends. We can zoom down here by going through, we got to complete all our filing options. So does the taxpayer want an RT? We want to hit yes, finish, and would you like to queue it? Would you like to verify it? And it'll go into error correction phase right after that. And you're not stuck in interview mode. So if you want to add forms the old-fashioned way, you're more than welcome to. Or you can come to the income worksheet and just say, yeah, we had income on a W-2, and we had some gambling winnings, and when you click next here, we'll enter those. Why didn't it say that? Oh, here they are. So we'll enter the W-2s, and we can add new forms from there. But we don't stick you in there. So if you want to go back to the client data worksheet, or if you want to look at the 1040, or if you want to go back into return at the credits page because you find this page handy, you're very welcome to. And we're pretty proud of this. I honestly am very happy with how this works, and I hope to hear from our customers like you guys here very soon about what you think about this. Interview mode. Now, we also have some apps. This is brand new for this year as well, and these should be out in the next week or so, but now we can have an app that's branded for your business where you can start the tax return, the taxpayer can sign the finished return, and they can check on refund statuses on their own without having to call you over and over and over again about where their check is. When they install the app, and it'll be available to them on the app stores, they'll register for brand new, or if they have already filled out and sent you a tax return, they can log on. They will have the ability to scan their driver's license, believe it or not. So the barcode on the back of the driver's license, you can take a picture of it, and it'll enter all that information that's on the driver's license, name and address and driver's license number among those. The taxpayer completes that client data worksheet. So when they fill in their occupations and their names and their phone numbers and they send it to us, they're actually filling out our personal information worksheet, so that there saves us time in completing the tax return. Additionally, they can take pictures of any W-2s or their driver's license or any of that and send it to you. If they have ledgers, if they're a cab driver or a truck driver and they need to take some images of some of those ledgers, they can do that. Now, please note, for this year, this first year, that these attached forms, these can only be sent once. So make sure that your taxpayer gets everything, all their ducks in a row before they take images and send them off to you. It might be a place where you can communicate with some of your clients before they send you all the information. Once they're done, they'll have a unique ID that you give them that ensures that their data is coming to you and nobody else. And when they click Save and Submit, that information will all come to you. And that will be available on, there's a TaxPass mobile app retrieval right here in the tax return section, where when we begin to gather returns, we'll see them pop up in here, and then we can retrieve them and pull them in and complete the tax return for them. Also, when they have questions, they can use their own dashboard. So they can get, where's my refund status? It sends them to the IRS web pages. They can look at the tax return that they sent you once you fill it, once you complete it. They can look at the finished return, and they can message the whole entire time. Additionally, if you want yourself to maybe have a lunch or to have dinner with your family, but you still want to manage some things without having to be in front of the computer necessarily, we have an app for you as well. So we have this ERO Go app that you can use, you can log into, that'll give us real-time reports and direct messaging with customers, as well as the status on tax returns. Here's kind of what one screen here looks like. So we have messages from our customers, as well as reports that we can run. Turn offices off if they're not paying their bill like they should be. All of those things are available through an app now. And speaking of that, we also have the ability to text message straight from the program. We have TextLink Plus, which is a service that we sell. If you're interested in it, it is available through your sales rep, but everything is taken care of for you. If you want to, it's unlimited messaging. If you want to send out birthday messages or holiday greetings or marketing messages to people who have Schedule Cs, you can get those guys in a little bit earlier than when the office is full of people, basically. So, and all this can be done through the program. There is also a free way that you can use TextLink through Gmail, but TextLink Plus keeps everything within the software itself. So if we look in inside the tax return, it's going to have to be in this past years. So here's TextLink Plus inbound and outbound messages, so we can see when we're getting messages and when they're being sent. If you're using Gmail, we don't have this option. All that goes through Gmail, so we don't get to count it. But if we look inside a tax return, let's go back into Marvin. Right at the top here is send text. So if we have our text messaging filled out, you know what? I bet you I do in here. Send text. There it is. So if this were a rejection, we could send a text message to Jeff about, hey, make sure you come in, bring in your kid's Social Security card. It seems to be rejected, whatever it is. And this ends up being really great for people who are at work or who are at school or otherwise busy. You can send them a list of things that they need to bring in. They don't have to memorize anything. And if you think about how people use their cell phone, if they get a call from a strange number, that's usually going to voicemail. If you get a text message, though, 9 times out of 10, you're going to read it before you delete it. So it's a really good way to get in front of people. Also, on the work in progress here, we can put together a report and send out a message to multiple people at once. So in cases of birthdays or holiday greetings, you can send all those guys out at once. If you guys have any ideas or anything that you want to share with us, please don't be afraid to reach out to your salesperson or even to technical support or to me if you want, and we can gather up those ideas and submit them and see what happens.